Hey there, welcome back guys. In today's video we're going to be talking about scaling up or down your 3D project. Yes, more drone videos are coming up. We're actually going to fly a drone that we printed, but today's video is going to be scaling up or down. Some folks reached out to me directly and wanted to know how to scale up or down your 3D project, because let's say for example we have the fidget here. Most likely when you think of a fidget you think of something, you know, that's like that, right? Or like this, you know, put in your hand. You can have a little gyroscope thing, hide it conspicuously in your pocket. Apparently I didn't know that fidgets actually come bigger, and it does feel like one. It's kind of comforting in a way. So the kids wanted to be able to bring this to school, and I was like, nah, you can't, because the rule is if the teacher can see it, then you can't play with it. So knowing that and moving forward, we were able to figure out how to get it smaller like that, and you can have it in your desk and quietly. I actually reached out to the guy who made this, and to my surprise 50% was not ideal. So this is at 100%, this is at 60%. So the only way to get it to a size true to form so that you would be able to work with it and manipulate it in a way as if you would the real, the real actual size, was to be at 60%. And as you can see, this is 60, right? And this is 50%. Big difference in the head, and I'll show you guys here. See, this is 60%, and this is 50, the little head. And as you see, once you start to go smaller, the parts I'm putting it together don't really aren't as fluid anymore. Of course it can be done, I'm sure there's a way, but these have moving parts, if that makes any sense. And so you really have to know, unless you made the file, that that's the only way you're gonna know the limitations. And if you don't know, can't reach out to the person who made the fidget, then it's going to be a process of elimination, trying to figure out the best settings that are right for you so that you can have an experience like this. But thankfully the fellow shared 65 was the way to go, and you see perfectly identical prints here. So without any further ado, let's get started so that you too can have a similar experience. And just know, you're probably looking at these fidgets here. A lot of times sometimes you'll get crappy prints, depending on the file. Like, look at this, right? And now look at this, right? Oh, this one, well, these prints I printed individually, but this one doesn't move, right? I'm going to try and see if I can do this one again. This one came out phenomenal. Look at that, nice and smooth and silky, and I didn't change anything. I just download the files and print them. So sometimes some files require configurations and changes in the settings, and personally I don't like those files that require you. I'm more of a plug and play kind of guy. I want to plug it in, download it, plug it in, and print. Sometimes you might have to configure it. This one I had to configure a little bit more because it was too small. It was actually this size, see? So I had to print it, and it doesn't even fit my finger, and it's a little bit tight. So you notice how the smaller you go, the harder it is to actually work with these fidgets. But then I did go bigger. There's a bigger ring somewhere around here. So that's that. But remember, it's all based on the experience that you want for you. So once you figure out and know how to scale it, you can do what you want. All right, so let me show you guys. Let's dive in and check it out. All right, so let's get started. I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can download this project. It's called the Ferret, or any other project you choose. The scaling works for any 3D project file. Okay, so when you open up the project, you'll have Ferret body front, Ferret body rear, Ferret extension A, B, C, and so on. Okay, and you have R and R STL, but the main file is saved as a 0.3 MF. We're not going to go into formatting, but we're just going to take this one and just follow along with whatever project you have that you want to scale down, if it's not this one. Okay, We're using Cura 5.6.0. And you see the project loads. So by default, everything will load, and see the application automatically knows what side bed I have. See, Ender 3S1 Pro. If I had chosen a different bread, it would be there, and by default it knows. So all of this isn't going to print. See, everything that's in yellow will print. And these are the different views we have here. You can view from that side, that angle. You can view from here, which I like sometimes. You can view from the top, which is awesome when adjusting everything and scaling. And then you have here this view, and you have here that view. And we're going to probably do the top view in the beginning just to make sure everything will print. So if it's grayed out like this, that means it's not going to print. Okay, so we can do a Command All. Right, you select one, do a Command All if it works. Right, see, it worked. I selected all. If your Command All is not working, you can just do this: select one or select none. Right, and then you go here, and you can go to right. See, it's not there. It won't let you. If I go to View, Edit, so right there at the top. See that? Select all models, and now they're all selected. Okay, or you can do with the keyboard, Command A, whichever works best for you. Now what we're going to do is we're going to scale it. All right. So this is move. So we can probably move it a little bit. You see the right here. We can move it here with the X axis. And the green is the Y axis. And if you're not familiar with which is X and which is Y, it says it right here. X is red, Y is green. See? So you're going to move it that way. Whichever option is best for you. I think I'll move it a little bit more. Okay? Now, you could either choose to print these all at once. Me, personally, I like printing maybe 3 or 4 parts at a time, depending on the size. This way the nozzle head doesn't have to travel too far, and I feel like, when printing 1 or 2 parts at a time, there's not, everything will just bind, I presume, much better. Okay? So, as you can see, we just moved it, right? So now the reason why you might want to scale it down, either because, for in our case, we're scaling this down so my daughter could bring this to school because it'll fit in her pocket. The teachers have these rules where you can have a fidget, but if you can see it, you can't have it. So if you can't see it, you can have it. So in this case, we want to scale it down so that she can have it. So right here, remember that was move? This one was scale, okay? So we're going to do, you want to make sure uniform. If you don't see that selected, you want to make sure a uniform scale is selected. Uniform means everything will scale, okay? See, everything. So I'm going to do, in this case, I know 60% is the way to go. And I only know because I reached out to the engineer and left a comment on his page. And he said 65 would be ideal, but I had gone 60, and 60 worked fair. But they know, like, unless you're the engineer or you are an engineer and you know how to work these files, that's the only way you're going to know. If you don't know, it's going to be a process of elimination and basically trial and error until you get the format and size that works best for you. And as you can see here, this is a Ferret. It's about $3. There are other files too. You don't have to use this one. This one's just used, for reference. You can apply this strategy and skill to any 3D project. But if we go down, not here, but if we go to the comments, right? And if you see here, I asked a question, and he said they can scale down pretty well. 50 might be pushing it a bit too small, but they usually work well down to about 65%. And he nailed it. I mean, the guy made the file, he knows, and 60 was kind of close. It was fair. I think for me, I think it was good, but to not lose quality and functionality, 65 would probably have been ideal, but we got it working at 60. And at 60, I believe the tail had to be replaced a few times, but we managed to fix that by changing the print settings. Oh, and let's go back to the other file. It's a good 3D print file when your print prints. It works really well. And sometimes some files, they'll have some, if you go down, I don't see it here. Most likely it's in, if we type in Ferret, or if we go back to the main page. So I don't see how we can go back to the main page, right? So if we type in Ferret, right? ET. And if we click on it, and It takes a while to load. Some of the pages are a little bit slow. And see, I just pressed it. All right, so if you scroll down to the main page, right, you'll see that some of them require you to change the settings in your printer. 3 walls, 5% infill to 15, 3 MF, and etc. Tall, snap fit to body rear. That's just probably the piecing together part. But a really good 3D print file will just print, like plug and play. And sometimes it might not be your printer that's off balance, like the printer is not printing, everything's turning into spaghetti. It could also be a bad file, which is why I recommend printing the fish first, the little bait. There's another video I have, because if the little tiny fish can print, which takes about 2 minutes to print, if it prints really well, then you know that your bed is fine. And then it could either be the print file or some other issues. It's usually a process of elimination when it comes to 3D printers. If you check out my other video on 3D printing for kids, you'll see that we didn't get the best optimal experience on this particular print because we had not printed in dynamic. But now that we have here, look, we can go to, we have our print quality. We're going to check standard first, okay? And then press slice, let it slice away. And slicing will tell you how long it's going to take and how much filament you're going to need. I wouldn't recommend printing this particular project. It says 8 hours. Now remember, this is if you print it in pieces, okay? You can do that, but see right here, it says how much filament is there. 58 grams and 19.40 milliliters. And also here's the breakdown if you put your cursor there, right? PLA, etc. So, you could choose the 8 standard. Maybe it might work for you, maybe not. But I can tell you from our experience when printing this thing, dynamic was superb. And by default, these Cura application settings work really well. You could use custom or advanced, but these worked really well. The filament settings are in the beginner video that I had thrown up. I'll leave a link to that because you want to make sure that everything is set in that sense. So then if I click slice here, you can get rid of this thing right there by clicking that. Let it slice. It takes a little bit, not very long, to slicing. And remember, there's no rush. For me, I don't rush for my 3D prints. They're done when they're done, and there's no need to rush. My biggest fear with 3D prints is hopefully when I come back, it's still printing, or hopefully when I come back, it's not a disaster. I was at 14 hours, and that's about right. Remember, this is scaled down at X%, at 60%. So if I go here, see, that's 60. So if I go to undo, right, that's at 100%. I believe at 100%, it took us 26 hours. So some prints will take that long. And I didn't print it all in one shot. We basically broke it down into pieces. I'll show you how we did that in a second once this basically, does what it needs to do. But we can look at this in the meantime. We have that view. You want to make sure everything is snug in there. As you can see, we got a little red going on, but that's okay. It does print. And then we have there, see? And here, that view, for me personally, I like this view. And we'll just let it slice before we break it up into pieces and show you ideally how I like to print these files for their optimal experience, so that the nozzle is just not going everywhere and everywhere. Remember, this is scaled at 100% now. Okay, maybe you like it bigger. Maybe you want to put it on your trophy case. Maybe you want to paint it. Maybe you like life-size animals. And I think this is pretty true to scale at 100%. All right, so one day, 20 hours, 45 minutes. My kids told me this took about 26 hours, and that's about right. So, you got to put that time aside. And if you have to be somewhere, you should watch the other video on how to prevent your 3D prints from crashing when you're away. And the other video will actually show you how to check them and monitor your prints so that you can leave your home and your friends are like, hey, come over. I can't. I got to watch my print. You don't have to watch them all the time. There's a way to view them remotely and to control the printer so you can shut it off if you see things start to go haywire. But that's in another video, not this one. Okay, so we're going to go back to the back. We'll just see if we can it'll let us do a redo. No, that's a rotate. Rotate's kind of neat, but I'm just going to go over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it again. Remember, this one is move, but we have to select something, all right? I'm going to select all, and this is scale. make sure you're in scale, rotate, mirror, okay, per model settings, and support blockers, okay? So in this case, we're not going to talk about support blockers in this video because this one doesn't need it, but I am going to delete that, and delete that because ideally this project works well when printed. We're going to move the X. Whoops, you see, I made a mistake, and you always, this is a typical mistake for new guys. I pulled the X. I thought I pulled the X. It should have moved, but no. As you can see, I am in scale. Make sure you are in the right feature for the right cause. So you see, when I move, I want to select move. Now I can select X and move it, okay? Now I want to scale it down to 60%, even though the engineer said 65, but I already know how this, I'm happy with, but you see, it messed up. What did I do wrong? Remember what I showed you guys in the beginning? I'm going to undo it, okay? And I'm going to hit scale again, all right? Select one, or so maybe select them all, right? And I'm going to hit scale. Remember, whoops, for scale, you want to make sure it's uniform scaling. Uniform means everything will scale at the same time. So if I hit 60, everything goes to 60. And me personally, I just like to move things. I'm going to move the, remember, don't move it just yet. You can't just move. You can't move when you're in scale. I'm going to move the Y a little bit and the Y here. And then maybe move the X for the head, put it in the middle. I just think the nozzle head doesn't have to travel so far. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of the nozzle going all the way over here for a part that's like, you know, so close it doesn't have to travel far. And maybe it's just an old wives' tale where, you know, your print won't be optimal because it won't bind so well because it's cooled down. Anyway, so knowing that and moving forward. So now if I click slice, okay, this piece might take 4 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours, okay? Probably 4 by the time the bed warms up and everything. So this will take 4. Now another thing you have to look out for is to make sure you have enough filament. So you'll have that right here. See that spool? It's a spool. And right there you can see the top of the filament thing line where the meter is. And if you don't know where the meter is, I'll show you. So I'm going to pause for a second and move before moving forward so you guys can see. Okay. And so as you can see, it tells you how much filament you have left for your project right there. See that? It starts at, I believe, at a higher number. Whoops. And see? 900, 600, 300, and then 100. I believe, you know, if you gauge in between the middle, I'm almost between 100, right? And maybe 110, or I'm not sure what this digit is right there. But you get the gist of it. And you want to make sure that you have enough filament for your job. We actually have a print job happening right now, but you know, it already told us how much filament we'll need. I think it's like 10 grams, so that's not even a fraction of what we'll need. We're just trying to print a ring. As you can see, it gives you a name of what's being printed. So remember, check your filament before you load and compare it to what your print file says, okay? Most filaments have that. Others I've seen are actually blank, so it's going to be hit or miss on what your experience is going to be, okay? So check your digits. So now that you guys know how to gauge how much filament is left, 17 Gs, hopefully you're not running low and there's still enough in there to print this part. But then you might have to do the math because it's 17 Gs for this one, right? But to print the whole project, if you're not going to, if you're going to print, we'll slice it again. If you're going to print the whole project, you have to make sure you have enough for the whole project. So I would say slice the whole thing first so you can get an idea mathematically of how much filament you need, and then, and you know, in this case, scale it down so that, you know, and maybe, you know, order some more from Amazon. I mean, I just order as I need it. Right now I'm running low, and so I know I can print a couple of tchotchkes here and there, little fidgets, but nothing extravagantly big because I'm going to run out. Unless you're okay with it being a different color, then, you know, then you're okay with that. You know, then just do that. And whatever works best for you. And, you know, if you're going to paint it, that's fine. You know, then the multicolor could work well. in that sense. But as you can see, it's still slicing because it's a bigger project, and this file was made really well by the engineer. So you know, I'm not going to question it. And the best thing about this is that if you don't follow, see 1 day 20 hours, but what the key is here, 229, right, grams of filament, right, or G's or milliliters. But the other way, right, so now we're going back again, just do a select all, and we're going to scale it down again to 60. So if you're running low, hey, maybe I'll just scale it. But remember, running low, right, might work unless you know the settings, unless you know the maximum percentage you can scale down to. You're going to be, you know, shooting at the hip and basically flying by the seat of your pants, and then it's going to be trial and error unless you reach out to the person who built it, or unless you built it, then you know, you pretty much know your own stuff. 14 hours, but the key is here, 64 G's, closest to 100. So I think I could probably print another one of these fidgets, because as you can see, it looks like I have enough left in my filament to some extent. So this is how you scale your project, right? And I hope this gives you an idea of how you can bring things up and down when it comes to your 3D creation masterpiece, or whatever you want to call it. And good luck. And that pretty much sums it up. That is how you scale up or down your 3D project, so that you too can have a similar experience on having something bigger or smaller. You decide. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below, or ideas for other videos. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.